I don't know about you guys, but I have a lot of feelings, emotions as a human being, as a therapist about this Megan Thee Stallion documentary. Just the realness, authentic, her showing up as herself and removing the mask. Megan Thee Stallion versus Megan Pete. Who is she really? Okay, we're gonna get to it all right about now from a therapist perspective. So make sure you turn them headphones up, you hit that like, you get your notebooks ready so you can take copious amounts of notes because maybe you might see yourself in this documentary and some things that you also would like to work on about yourself. So, whoever creatively put this together, y'all did that. I looked up some of the credits. Nakia, okay, some of y'all in the background who maybe y'all might see this video, maybe not. But when it comes to the anime aspect, the just detail related to her story, the cinematography, how authentic she was, it really reminded me of, do y'all remember Diary of, I think it, back from MTV, those days, it took me back there. And it made me so nostalgic and miss the Diary of. That's when we got to see artists pull back the layers, really be themselves, and show up as a human being. And I think in this docuseries, we saw on one hand, Megan Thee Stallion versus Megan Pete. And I've always said and believed that Megan Thee Stallion was the stage name, but Megan Pete is what we got in this documentary. And there's a lot of people around her and lack thereof, and how a lot of that comes into her mental health. Now, starting to talk at the top of this documentary, let's talk about the strong Black woman syndrome and how there's so much pressure on us to always remain strong, keep the cape on, okay? You don't have time to be sad. You a superstar. Lori stepped to the front. Lori pissed me off throughout this docuseries because it just showed how the industry only cares about the artist. What about the human being? What about Megan the person? Megan Pete. But I felt like over and over again, I saw you're a superstar. Get up, shake it off, stop crying. We don't got time for that. This is what happens when you're a superstar. You have this type of schedule and this type of life. No care for her as a person. And in the beginning of the documentary, I enjoy seeing her mother. Okay, I want you guys to think about if you have ever experienced a loss of a parent. Okay, and what it would be like if you potentially lost your parent at the height of your career. Okay, Megan Thee Stallion was very much at the height. Her career was popping off. Her mom was her number one support system, her number one cheerleader, the one person she can count on. Now imagine suddenly that person is taken away. Not only that, it was up to Megan to decide. It was up to Megan to decide that it was time to let her mom go. She had to make that decision most likely by herself when nobody really by her. And that is such a hard thing to go through. So that's the first trauma right there that we got to, was the loss of her mother, and how there's so much unresolved grief, hurt, and pain from losing the number one person in your life who loved you unconditionally. Okay, but instead of being able to sit back, pause, go through the grief process, her career was taken off. She never stopped. Okay, 3 weeks later, she was on stage doing shows. And since then, her career has only gone up, up, and up. But you got to remember, there's still that trauma, that first trauma that we saw in this documentary, okay? Now, we're going to count down the traumas because that was number one, all right? So we see her mother passing away. And we get to a lot of stuff about her and Kelsey, okay? Now, Kelsey, to me, is another trauma. Not only did I lose my mom, I thought the one person that was supposed to be my friend, my connection, in some people's eyes, betrayed me also. Another trauma, okay? And so some people think about trauma as experiences, traumatic things you've been through, a car accident, maybe some assaults, robbery, things like that. But there are big T traumas and little T traumas. And I think people focus so much on the big T traumas that they forget that there are a lot of little things, maybe I wouldn't say little, but not as major as what your mind typically thinks of as traumatic, that you go through. Losing friendships, grief and loss, Those are also things that are truly traumatic that stay with you, live with you. And ask yourself, do you really ever get past, move on from losing a parent? I don't think you ever do. I think you learn to cope and exist without that person, but that grief is always right here. Okay, not only that, it shows up in your relationships because you haven't dealt with it and it just sits with you. Sometimes it shows up as depression, anxiety, but Megan has not really, to me, been able to grieve the loss of her mother because of her career. At some points, I feel like, is she going to choose her career or is she going to choose to sit down? And we're going to talk a little bit about her sitting down later, but losing the impact of losing her mom. And as she's going through the grief and loss, her career is going crazy. Everybody wants a piece of her. Okay. And at that point, I remember seeing her during the pandemic on social media with so many people around her. Y'all remember seeing her twerking in the pool, all them hotties that was at her house. Where they at? You don't see a lot of that no more. You just see Megan lonely. Okay? You mainly see her with her manager, but you don't really see all that, the stuff you saw before the Tory Lane stuff. Okay? So we continue to see her, some people might say, thriving in her career, but to me it was a mask. Okay? All that was masking. The alcohol, the parties, the relationship with Tory. Trying to fulfill the emptiness that was inside her, trying to fulfill the loss of her mother. She's trying to make connections in all the wrong places. And I think in a lot of ways, Megan doesn't have the right support system around her at times to tell her this ain't right. You can sit down. Okay? This friend ain't right. To me, she's lost all the relationships I used to see her with during the pandemic, except really her manager. But everybody else, you really don't see. Okay, I think in a lot of ways the world turned on Megan when it came to the whole Tory Lanez thing. And you see her obsess over what people were saying. Tasha K, everybody in the media had something to say. And it is interesting that because it's a woman expressive about her body, people sensationalize and only focus on the fact that she was sleeping with Tory Lanez. Not so much about what happened to her, and then everyone thought she was lying, making it up. And what we gonna focus on? Well, were you having a relationship with him? Forget that he shot you. Forget, once again, another trauma number 3. Forget that. Let's focus on, what was you doing with that man? What was y'all doing in that car? Where was y'all before he shot you? How did you contribute to him shooting you? Everybody focused so much on Megan being the problem and her speaking up. It shows you also that when victims of crimes, victims of things that happen in relationships choose to speak up, this is what happens. And unfortunately, that's why a lot of victims do not speak up, because of these kind of repercussions and blowback. What's the point of me speaking up when people are going to hate me? People are not going to believe me. They're going to drag my name through the mud for clicks, likes, views, at the sake of what? My mental health. And I think you saw her start to decline mentally, but still on stage, to the naked eye, still performing at festivals, doing stuff with Cardi, all of that. But beneath the surface, Megan P was deteriorating. Megan P was hurting. But you need to get up there, dance. And we see Lori. Lori has not changed since making the band. Megan says, I feel like I'm about to throw up. You a superstar, girl. Throw up? I'm just going to take you to the mountaintop. I just want to get you to the mountaintop. Once you get up there, then we'll be fine. And what do you see? Megan go along with it. Once again, I'm like, where is her support system? Where are the people saying it's okay to sit down? We need more of that. We saw a little bit with Sam. We saw a little bit of other people, but there's not enough of that. The Loris would deteriorate artist mental health. Okay? And as quiet as it's kept, I'm sure Lori know about some of them bodies with Diddy. I'm sure she had some involvements. We don't focus enough on that because to me, Lori has not changed since Danny Kane, okay? When somebody gonna take a peek at her? What's going on behind closed scenes with her? But she annoyed me because it's like, girl, every time Megan is having a moment to herself, shake it off. Get up. You a superstar. I can be a superstar, but I'm a human. And so many people are focused on Megan Thee Stallion that we forget once again, Megan Pete. And as we're going through it, we see the grief and the loss, the PTSD, her not being able to really go out, her always thinking about the repercussions of her being shot, the body sensations. Your body, when you have gone through a traumatic event, your body becomes activated. And sometimes PTSD does not always look like you have nightmares, things like that. Sometimes it can be body activation. You hear a sound, a story, something reminds you of that event, your body has a reaction. Okay, it's not always just about you can't sleep, you can't go out. There are ways that people mask those symptoms of PTSD, anxiety for other people. And I think we saw in this documentary how Megan was masking for other people. Okay, and the media is part of the problem. Everyone sensationalizes. Everyone is focused on how can I make money off of this person's pain. Even Gail focusing so much on Tory Lanez and sleeping with him. The interview was problematic, okay? And somebody should have stopped it. But once again, who are the people that Megan have around her? Now, looking through some of my other notes, finally, Megan got to a point where she's communicating and people are listening. I don't feel right. I feel like I'm going crazy. I'm not in it. Megan Thee Stallion is having fun, but Megan Pete is hurting. So she decides to cancel her shows and take a deep breath to decompress. And it shows you just how you can be at the top of your career, where you are in life, and it is still okay to take a break, to take a step back. We are so conditioned to produce, be productive, be doing something, that we forget we are human and that it's okay to take a step back and take that cape off. To take a break. Ask yourself, what do you do day to day before just moving to decompress? Maybe when you get off work, do you sit in your car for at least 10 minutes before starting it? Or do you rush to the next thing you got to do, picking up your kids? When you get up in the morning, do you have a morning routine to help you ease into your morning? Or do you just get up and go? Do you get up and start looking at your phone? Because that's part of the problem. At night, what do you do to decompress as a nighttime routine? Have you ever thought about having a nighttime routine to help you decompress from the day? Maybe that's lighting some candles, listening to some music, taking a hot shower. What do you do to kind of decompress from the noise of your life? Have you ever thought about decompressing from the noise of your life? Now, Megan's like, I need a break. I'm going off the grid. And she checks herself into some type of facility to help her. And she goes to therapy. Thank God more people are talking about going to therapy, and it's becoming less stigmatized. And it's something when she was in this retreat, she went through some exposure therapy. So let's get a little bit into that. Okay, because I focus on exposure therapy. I do EMDR therapy. Okay, I think people who have gone through a lot of trauma can really be impacted by different types of therapy that are more than just talk therapy. Okay, and now with EMDR therapy, eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy, EMDR. Okay, that is when me as a therapist, I am able to help you have less of those reactive feelings and emotions to that experience that is also connected to a negative thought you have about yourself. So, example, it's not all about traumatic experiences. Maybe you are a person who has negative beliefs about yourself related to, I am not worthy enough. I am not good enough. I take people back. So tell me the first time in your life you felt that way. What is the memory that you have associated with first feeling like you were not good enough? So that memory attached to the thoughts And through body somatic therapy, I am able to help people reprocess the memory and the negative belief about themselves and take that intrusive thought that you're not good enough, maybe it's at a 10 being the highest, you think that you're not good enough, and take you all the way down to a 0. But I think more people need to know about these type of therapies. For the most part, I think that they normally are only available to people of a certain caliber, not to a lot of people who have insurance. But there are therapists out there like me who accept insurance, and they're able to help you reprocess and alleviate the negativity left on your body by these different things, words, experiences through exposure therapy. Now, I wish that she had talked more about that, but I know the documentary is not so much about that aspect, okay? But look more into different types of exposure therapy, and if you're interested in more content about that, let me know in the comments. Now, towards the end, we see her successful, win awards, but still feeling disconnected, hurt. But then, the Tory Lanez case, okay? We finally get an outcome from the Tory Lanez case, and you see her break down and cry. I feel like that cry was that little girl inside of her being released, healing, maybe working through some of the pain she's been carrying all of her life, maybe these last couple years with her mom passing. I felt that release was needed, okay? And although she thought her life would become completely different once the Tory Lanez case came to an end, the internet will internet. People still gonna hate. People still gonna say, you shouldn't have snitched. You shouldn't have said nothing. This man lost his life because of you. This is all your fault. But I hope that she's still in therapy working through that stuff. And you see her kind of start to evolve. The phoenix, the snake, shedding its skin. A new Megan, a healthier Megan, who is more in tune to Megan Pete. And maybe not masking so much, okay? It's an example for all of us that no matter where you are in life, you can take off that mask and you can heal. You can work through the things that are stopping you from thriving in your life, okay? Ask yourself, am I thriving or am I surviving? Does my life represent where I thought it would be? And does my life reflect how I feel on the inside? These are all things that we can get into more on this channel, but I hope you guys watch the documentary. They did a good job, all that anime. It was amazing. And I hope everyone takes a chance to self-reflect where you are in your life. Where do you want to be? What's stopping you from getting to the point where you want to be? And does your life reflect how you feel inside? What are you reflecting out? All right? But make sure you hit that like, you subscribe. Okay, let me know your thoughts on the documentary because, of course, we can get into it. Make sure you stick around because I will see you guys in the next video.